Welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jr. with Afshin Bernard, Stephen Mangaz, and Vincent Charles. Gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the most and the best, and that is sports here in the DMV, District, Maryland, and Virginia. How about those Washington Wizards moving on to the second round? And we know that they're going to be playing the Indiana Pacers, but they're not without their problems, barely winning it a few nights ago. Afshin.
Yeah, they're a team of dysfunction, the Indiana Pacers, but they did finally win their Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks, and they actually won it in quite convincing fashion. Almost seems like all that dysfunction that they had the previous 2 months just was out the window. But the Washington Wizards, they got a lot of rest, so they are now going to prepare for the #1 seed Indiana Pacers.
Well, the good thing about this is that the Washington Wizards enjoy being the underdog, and they're going to be the underdog for all intents and purposes in this game or in this series, Stephen.
Yeah, they certainly will be the underdog. The Pacers taking, one of the top seeds in the East and best home team record in the regular season out of anyone in the NBA, but they did lose 2 home games to the Atlanta Hawks. So the Wizards coming in focused. What I loved was Bradley Beal after the game going into the tunnel after Game 5 he was excited. You could definitely tell, but he did say, feels great, still not done yet though. Got another series to go. Got to keep it one game at a time. Got to keep rolling.
Right,
and that's what I love hearing.
They're going to keep rolling, and the way in which they're going to keep rolling, they're pretty impressive on the road, because if you look at the Chicago series, Vincent, they won 2 games on the road, and conceivably, with just enough energy, they could do that again.
That's the point I wanted to bring up when I heard Stephen mention about the Pacers being such a good home team. The Wizards are a good away team, and I agree with you, Kevin. I think that they can go into Indiana and they can win.
Well, one of the good things about during the course of the regular season, Afshin, that the Wizards did win in Indiana, so they have a bit of an uptick, so to speak.
Yeah, the Wizards, not only did they win in Indiana, but gentlemen, they also had a above 500 road record this year. Now, Indiana has some great players, and we're going to see what the Wizards have to contend with, especially with Paul George, Lance Stevenson, and I think he'll finally come out of his shell, the local Georgetown product, Roy Hibbert. I think we'll see him actually perform a lot better against the Wizards than he did against Atlanta. I think that this is going to be a tight series for the Wizards if they expect to win. They're going to have to play rock-hard ball.
If you're just tuning in, you're watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show right here on AIM via Comcast 69 and Fios 38. Afshin.
Yeah, a tight series, like I said, Kevin, but if the Wizards win, I think it's going to have to be in 7 games. I don't think they're going to be able to do to Indiana what they did to Chicago, dysfunction or not, in the Pacers locker room. But if Indiana pulls out these first 2 at home, then you're going to see you might see some tight play around Washington, and we'll see how they handle the pressure when they come back to Verizon Center.
And speaking of pressure, let's go on and talk about those Washington Redskins. For the NFL draft is only a few days away as of this broadcast. Let's actually talk about the NFL draft from a Redskins perspective and get you guys' opinion and analysis as to what's needed. So we'll start with you, Stephen. From the draft and from the Redskins standpoint of view, let's start with that. What do they need?
Well, the Redskins need a few things, but I do believe that the Redskins are in a more beneficial position than a team normally would be that had the year that we had last year. I think there were some other things that went into last year's poor season, but they do need a need at right tackle, safety, and inside linebacker would be 3 positions that I would point out for sure.
All right. Afshin, any particular names that stand out for you in this particular draft that the Redskins are looking at?
If you talk about Brian Stork from Florida, he's a good offensive tackle. He's actually a center, but he can play tackle or guard as well. And he was the one who, for Florida State. Of course, he was a center for Jameis Winston. So that's a big thing that they might look at. A couple of pass rushers, I think the Redskins might want to go after too. I think they could use another pass rusher to go along with Kerrigan and Arakpo. And let's remember, beneficial, I think that's an understatement, Stephen, because the Washington Redskins, you're right, they have the second pick in every single round from 2 through 7. So they have a lot of picks in this draft.
And let's mention something about the Washington Redskins. They picked up the 5th-year option on Ryan Kerrigan, so that was a big news item. Vincent.
There's an offensive lineman, Xavier Suafalo. He's supposed to be a good one out there, and I look for him to go in the early rounds, and the Redskins can use him. He's not only good in run protection, but he's also good in pass protecting also.
Well, speaking of pass protection, that was the Redskins' biggest problem last year in protecting Robert Griffin III, Afshin.
Right, and of course, it comes from the right side, as Stephen pointed out. Tyler Columbus didn't have a good year over on that side. They have Compton as well. So these are young guys. I want to give them a chance. Even though they didn't have a good season last season, they are young, and they do need to go through that maturity role that is well needed for an offensive lineman. So let's remember too, RG3 is also a young guy. So he was able to do some things that a lot of veteran quarterbacks couldn't do because he's much faster.
And Stephen, I want to let you have the last word.
Yeah, well, when we talk about the bad pass protection, I actually I believe and will put a little more weight on that being Robert Griffin's fault, particularly last year with his injury. Not necessarily the offensive line, though. As we said, the right tackle position is definitely one that needs to get upgraded. But it's hard to say that you've got a poor offensive line when in 2012 you had the top rushing offense, and in 2013 last year you had the 5th rushing offense. Hard to do that when your entire offensive line is bad, as some say.
Well, if anything, we're going to see how this progresses, and hopefully the Redskins will be finishing out on top, although we never know how these things are going to go until they take foot on the field. So that's the thing about football, and as if all sports are concerned. Let's talk about a team that is doing the impossible. The black and red in DC United. They're doing something which they haven't done in a long time, gentlemen. They are actually winning.
Yeah, they are. They're 3-3-2. They just came off of a tough loss to the last place Portland Timbers. They lost in the final minute where Portland got a goal. Otherwise, DC United would have at least come away with a point. But they have played really well. I believe that they are finally following Ben Olsen's system and his chemistry and his scheming, and they're believing in that system. And Ben Olsen, to me, is one of the top young coaches in MLS. And this is the year he's got to prove it, though.
Stephen.
Yeah, the Portland game, as you mentioned, it's a shame giving Portland their first win of the season. Hate to see that happen, but before that game going into it, the Portland side, I think, is, along with everyone else in the MLS now, is starting to realize this is not the DC United team of last year. You've got 8 new players and 2 new experienced wingers that are attacking and scoring some goals for us.
Vincent.
They still are having a problem, though, winning away games. Now, they got 3 wins this year, 27 games before they did last year. So that's an important thing to remember.
But
What
it's a
they
good
have-
improvement. It's a good improvement that they are winning. And although Eddie Jordan hasn't contributed yet, but I can kind of see that happening. Not to cut you off, Vincent.
All right. No, Vincent's right, too.
Yeah, he's right.
Eddie
That's right.
Johnson hasn't played yet, and he's been hurt. He's got to play. I want to see Boswell play a little bit better. 21 straight winless games on the road for DC United. They had a chance to break that streak in Portland, and they didn't.
Yeah, that's a big issue, as Vincent alluded to. In order for the DC United to win, you have to win games on the road if you want to be successful, and that's part of the MO in any sport. In addition to winning at home, you have to win the away games. Vincent, we're going to let you have the last word on this.
What I wanted to mention about these younger players, there's a lot of energy on the team, and they're really focused, and they're out to prove something, because some of these guys, they ran out of options, or their clubs declined to have them on their team this year, so they were dealt over to DC United. Some guys came over in trades, and these guys are hungry, and they're willing to play, and they want to win.
That's right. That's what we all can agree with. DC United, they want to win. You can see it in every game. You can see that they believe in Ben Olsen's system. And the good thing about this is that the sky's the limit. No expectations for this particular season. That's the good thing about this. What Vincent alluded to with the younger players, there's no expectations. So when you have no expectations, you kind of play a little lighter and you kind of play a little bit easier, you know?
Yeah, and they have nothing to lose. They have everything to gain this season because of how they finished last season. Absolutely right, Kev.
All right, we're going to take a break. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show. I am Kevin Jeter, Stephen Mangaz, Vincent Charles, and Afshin Banab. Coming up, we're going to be talking more sports, high school, I do believe, softball, and then lacrosse, and then we're going to deal with this Sterling debacle that happened. That's all around the press, and we want to remind you that you can listen to the Nation's Capital Sports Show on TuneIn.com. This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. You can listen to the Nation's Capital Sports Show on the Stitcher Radio Network, and you can check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/tncss.com. Afshin Banab, Stephen Mangaz, Vincent Charles. The good thing about doing TV is that when you shortchange yourself on other topics, you can also go to another one, and actually we're going to insert the Washington Nationals. And not a bad month for them, but Bryce Harper actually will be out longer than expected, 2 months with 2 months with that torn thumb ligament, Afshin.
Yeah, he is going to be out. Not only does he have that torn thumb ligament, Kevin, but he's got a couple other minor injuries that he was playing with.
Sore back.
Yeah, back.
Yeah.
I think he even had a sore knee for a little bit. So, he's going to be able to rest up, rest well physically and mentally, and then hopefully in July, if you're a big Nats fan, he'll come back and do what he is supposed to do.
And it's tore it from the floor up,
Yeah.
Stephen.
Yeah, and what I'm looking forward with that is trying to see who's going to be picking up the slack for Bryce Harper when Bryce Harper is missing for the Nationals. We saw in the Astros series Kevin Franzen playing out in left field, though he's normally an infielder, but made that gorgeous little web gem with the behind-the-back
Yeah.
catch
Yeah,
off
that was
the wall
pretty
in Houston. So that's good to see, though I think for the most part we're probably going to see McLeod a little bit more in the field for the Nationals there.
But the good thing about this, Stephen, is that they're playing pretty good without Bryce Harper.
Yeah, they are, and I think that's because some of the other guys already have been hotter than normal. I mean, Espinosa performing far better than we would have expected coming into the season.
Vincent.
Rendon certainly proven his worth and that he's really something to reckon with. And
All right.
he's making the adjustments during every at bat.
I saw a big smile on Vincent's face when we mentioned Danny Espinosa because that's Vincent's boy, Vincent.
Yes, he has surprised me, Avsheen. I'll give him his due.
He surprised you too, didn't he?
Or Espinosa's my boy. His boy is Desmond.
Desmond, yeah.
All good teams show their depth, and that's what we're going to see, like Stephen was talking about, how much depth they have. Getting back to the Harper injury, that's just his aggressiveness. Some people think, oh, he's out of control. Hey, Bryce is Bryce. He's just had a little bad luck, and he will be back. But I see the Nats, last I checked, were half game out. So for April, I think they're doing fine.
That's right. And now's the time to be off because baseball, as Stephen and I had a conversation off mic before in our post-production show, it goes on and on and on and on until it's over.
Yeah.
Afshin.
It does, and these injuries happen, and Harper is aggressive. Matt Williams is an aggressive manager, so I know he likes how Harper has played, barring that one little play where he ran or walked down first base. Aside from that, he's done really well. It'll be interesting to see what happens now because some of these guys who have been injured, Wilson Ramos, he's going to be coming back, and it looks like in the Oakland series he will be a DH as they play out in Oakland. Ryan Zimmerman is going to be due back shortly. What are they going to do with him? You guys mentioned Rendon, and how about LaRoche? Both of them are playing crazy.
Yeah.
But
What are you going to do with Zimmerman?
But that's not a bad thing to have. When
No,
you
that's a
have,
good problem.
That's a good problem, Vincent.
Yes, it is. I would hope that they're not going to deal away Espinosa or anything.
Well, I don't
Could
think
you
they're going to
be-
put Zimmerman a second.
Could you be a little worried about that? That he
No.
might be low man on a totem pole when Zimmerman comes
No,
back?
because Vincent, he'd either play third or first. Are you going to put Rendon back on the bench or LaRoche on the bench? Those are the two best players that the Nats have had in April. There's no doubt about it.
I think Vincent's point here is that you're going to be putting Rendon back at second, and then where does
Well-
Espinosa go? And you leave Ryan Zimmerman at third, and then LaRoche at first. But
The bus is being warmed up to take Desmond to Syracuse, man.
But could you imagine for a few games if you've got either Rendon, Zimmerman, or LaRoche as your pinch hitter coming in?
That would be good. No, Vincent, I understand what your point is too, but you can't. Espinosa, like you had said, Stephen,
Yeah.
he's having a good year.
Yes.
So I just don't know what they're going to do with Zimmerman. It's a good problem to have, Kevin.
That's right. Always a
But
good
what are you
problem.
going to do? Because then you could see a little bit of dissension come July, August, September, if this team is really going to be at the top of the NL East. What are you going to do with Zimmerman? He is the face of the team, right?
It's a
Well,
great
this
problem.
this will be, not to interrupt you, this will be a good thing because it will show Matt Williams' mettle as a manager. How do you deal with this? Not a bad thing, and it's not really diversity. It's almost reverse diversity in regards to how do you deal with, you want somebody, you have your face of the team, they want to play, you're doing good, you don't want to interrupt the flow of things, but I'm quite sure they can work this out. Let's talk about you guys players for the month of April.
Well, I had just mentioned two of them, Rendon and LaRoche. I would pick either one of them. I tend to lean towards LaRoche only because Rendon has had a couple of errors, which probably would set him in, make him number 2 on the list. And I'll tell you something else. With Espinosa, Desmond, Rendon, and Zimmerman when he was playing, the Nationals are lucky they don't have more errors than they do because LaRoche has saved a lot of pass balls. There's no doubt about it. So LaRoche would be my player of the month.
Your player of the month, Vincent.
Rendon or LaRoche, but I got to go with Rendon, Avsheen, because he's been more of a spark plug, hitting in that number 2 position Both guys have played well, but I got to go with Rendon because he's a spark plug, and I might be looking at him as the leadoff hitter.
Steven.
Well, just to throw another name in there, I'm going to go with Jason Worth for the Nationals as well. He's been one of the big
Yes.
cardiac Nat
Yes.
names.
Yes.
He's been
He's
one
had
of
a
the-
good month
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
Remember when he was at Philly? He used to be a Nats killer.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen him when he played with Philly? It was a walk-off
That's right.
home run in the ninth, and then you sit there, you're all happy, and the Nats are leading, and it's like, here's
That's
Jason
right.
Worth comes up and pops it out the park.
And you remember
But that's a good one.
You remember
Yeah.
his first year in the Nats uniform? He was a Nats killer then too.
Yeah.
yeah. But
Until the last 2 years.
Until the
he's
last
played
2
well,
years,
yeah.
yeah.
But at least at the moment now he's on the other
Right.
side of it, and he's one of the late night Nats. as we
That's
put
right.
it.
I could
Big time.
remember going to games where I would see in those first 2 years where Worth was just beginning to become on his own, where people would call him worthless.
Yeah.
And I guess I was one of them. I digress, but I like the moxie of Jason Worth. I'm going to choose him as my player of the month too. Let's move on to something in which you're going to talk about, and that is
Okay.
softball in
Let's talk some
Virginia.
softball.
That's
Let's
right.
talk some
girls high
softball.
school softball, man.
Girls high school softball. We just finished. We just covered a game between Wakefield and Washington Lee, and it was at W&L, and it was in the downpour, rain and
Chris
misty
did that
and
game with
muddy.
you too, right?
Chris Jerry did the game with me, and it was a great game. Washington Lee lost to Wakefield. They did come back. Wakefield was up, I think, 9-1. The score was 9-5. But I'll tell you that Taylor White, that shortstop for Wakefield, was quite impressive with a little backflip on a diving play to start a double play, and then she had a couple of hits, and she took a routine grounder from when she was on base at second, and she went all the way home on it. So Wakefield is an impressive team. Washington Lee is impressive. They both lost their next games, however. Now we're going to do an O'Connell game soon. Now O'Connell is a nationally ranked team, and they have won 18 out of the last 20, if my numbers are correct. 18 out of the last 20 private school championships in the state of Virginia. So they're quite an impressive girls softball team, and I think they're ranked 10 or 11 nationally. So
Wow.
I'm looking forward to seeing the O'Connell Knights.
And we're looking forward to seeing you cover that game right here at AIM
Yes.
via Comcast 69 and Files 38. So thanks a lot, Afshin.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to something in which has been a very, very, very crazy type of matter, and we're going to talk about the Donald Sterling situation. Now, everyone has had an opinion on this, and I wanted everything to calm down in regards to the way that I thought about this whole situation. And if you've been away in Siberia, you're not. That's the only way you're not going to have to know about this. But basically, what it boils down to, he was caught. Well, not necessarily caught, but basically what happened was a phone conversation got out between him and his girlfriend, and it was leaked. And he said some very despicable remarks, Afshin.
Yeah, he did. Donald Sterling has been owner of the Los Angeles Clippers for the past 30 years, 35 years or so, and he of course has had a history of this, not just with African American athletes, but with people in general, especially African Americans and Asians and Latinas, because he owned some housing complexes, and he practiced discriminatory acts with them historically, and he really got caught red-handed, and what he said was quite pathetic and disgusting in my mind. And there is no need for something like that in the NBA or anywhere in life in 2014.
That's right. And the reality of this is that people are entitled to speak their mind, as you know. But the thing that's so kind of disheartening about this whole situation, he works in a business, he owns a team that's 85 or 95% African American. We can say that about the whole entire NBA. So, I mean, that was kind of disheartening, Stephen.
Yeah, it's and I don't think anybody has any different views on it other than that it was just deplorable. I mean, it's nothing good said. The whole story in my mind is just wrong from so many angles. Her recording him, the entrapment, the fact that he has this girlfriend, it's just wrong. And the NBA has done the right thing and banning him for life. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. Who's going to purchase the team? What's the next step going to be? Is it going to be Oprah Winfrey, as we've heard about in some rumors?
Yeah, we'll never know.
Well,
We're going to talk about that, but we're going to get to Vince and get Vincent's feedback.
His racist remarks certainly don't belong in the NBA or society. I think that Donald Sterling will probably try to litigate when they try to, kick him out of the league or the ownership, and that's the right thing for the owners to do. They know it's the right thing to do, and they need to find someone who can take that team and be fair with the players and someone who is fair with the NBA.
All right, let's move on and talk about Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner. We
Right.
covered this yesterday when we did a podcast 157, which you can listen to on tunein.com. And he's done a good job, but he had to do this because
Right.
at the end of the day, the NBA is a business, Afshin.
It is, and he's been getting all the accolades. Adam Silver's been called the bravest man in the world. I don't see it that way. He is
I
the
agree with
commissioner of
you.
the NBA, and had he not done this, given the maximum fine, maximum punishment, if you will, the players would have. There would have been a mutiny among the players. The owners would have called it bad for business, and they would have complained. And then the fans would have done something. And remember something about Donald Sterling too. He's 80 years old, so he was born during the Jesse Owens period. He went through the integration in baseball with Jackie Robinson.
That's right.
Muhammad Ali and how he stood for morally and ethically. Tommy Smith and John Carlos. And then let's not forget Civil Rights Act, segregation, Jim Crow.
And
You
he
would think
should,
he would have
and,
changed
and, and he should know better.
Right,
He
you
should
would've-
know better
yes.
than this. All these changes in sports that happen in sports, and he owns a team that's once again predominantly 85% to 90% African American, and he deals with the African American community. He should know better, Vincent.
Yes, he should, and there's just no excuse for it at all. Now,
Let's talk
The-
about this, and then not to interrupt you. Let's not get off course here. We're talking about this debacle in terms of the business standpoint right now, in terms of how the NBA is going to deal with Donald Sterling in regards to right now they're actually taking a vote. He has 10 days to come back and to rebuttal, and then they're going to take a vote, the NBA owners, and it has to be a 75% passage.
Right.
If that happens, if 75% passage to have him disown himself from the team, then basically that's what he's going to have to do. But interesting that Vincent pointed out and alluded to that it could be more legal ramifications.
Yeah.
Vincent.
Now, the people that have the real power, okay, we talk about Silver, but the real power in the NBA are the owners.
Exactly.
And like I said, they know what to do, they know what they need to do, and it's just a matter of time.
Well, I tell you, the real power is not in addition to the owners, but the consumers. The consumers that eat up that product of the NBA. So it would behoove them to do something in which they're doing it in the right. They're going in the right direction. The owners are one thing, but without the fans, none of these teams would not exist, Afshin.
Oh, sure, definitely not. I mean, Adam Silver, I think, did what he did was, it is possible that he heard, this was a rumor, that Golden State LA game, the players were going to go actually warm up, and they had their jerseys on, they were going to go to center court, and as the ball was being thrown in the air, they were going to walk off the court. He heard that. The fans would have been behind the players.
That's right.
The owners couldn't have done anything had the players done
No.
that. This would have been a remarkable history in the NBA, a remarkable tone that the NBA would have set, not only for sports, but in society as well. The NBA could have really, he did the right thing. Adam Silver did what he was supposed to
Well, there was probably labor ramifications built in that if Adam Silver did not step in, because
Exactly.
a lot of people could have been sued, and we could have been seeing a lot of lawsuits, and that would have been a friendly thing. Now, Sterling says that he will fight to keep the ownership of his team. Now, we sit here. How is he going to go about doing that? I'm kind of like bewildered. What's going to be his case, Stephen?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how you're going to make a case for that. I don't know how he's going to. He's just going to be sitting there collecting checks, running a business side. He's not allowed to go to the offices. He's not allowed to go to the games. He's not going. He's going to be barred from pretty much anything to do with the team, except other than a financial point. But that is the one thing that they could not do in terms, unless we talk about this owner's votes, is force him to sell. He still owns the team at the moment.
Yeah.
That's right. And we're going to let you have the last one on that because we're going to move on now to our topic, lacrosse. That's something which you're going to talk to us about, Stephen.
Yes, I do want to talk a little bit about lacrosse because as we speak now and as we do this broadcast, Selection Sunday for the NCAA tournament has yet to be decided and selected teams, but we do expect to see a lot of local teams in that tournament, including the University of Virginia, the University of Maryland, Loyola, who has won a championship recently, as well as the others, and Johns Hopkins University as well. And this is something that I think would be great for anyone that is a local sports fan and wants to have some pride in something local to pay attention to and watch. That tournament begins May 10th and 11th, and then the championships will conclude in Baltimore, May 24th and 26th. Pretty much all the past champions, except for Syracuse, it's all dominated by the Mid-Atlantic region. It's something we should celebrate as a local rich heritage sport within the area.
Well, the one thing I like about lacrosse is that a lot of inner city schools in D.C. are taking up this sport, and it's nice to see that that sport has some transgression and it's crossing over. That's the one thing I love about sports, because if you want to play it, you can play it, and there should be no race barrier in sports at all.
not.
I mean, it's everything, and it's about everyone. Afshin, we're going to let you have the last word on this, man.
It sure is, man, and it's fun. I hope lacrosse starts to pick up in the inner cities. I'd like to see that. It's at M&T Stadium, right? The
Yes.
Johns Hopkins place
Yes.
will be the host. Duke is the defending champion. I'm not sure if there's in it, so they are the defending and reigning champions.
They are,
right?
and they will certainly be in the tournament
Okay.
as well, as
Okay.
along with a few other Mid-Atlantic schools.
But hopefully this will make the inner cities more interested and make maybe the kids will start playing. I think there are some high schools that are doing it now. Maybe in the next few years we'll see a lot of interest in lacrosse, Kev.
Yeah, very verbosy, but
Yeah.
nonetheless. Oh, man. Wow. I was going to let you go, Vincent, but it seems like we're going to be out of time. But that's a good thing. We kind of started off to a rocky start, but we managed to finish off just in time. And there are a lot of people behind the scenes that make us sound and look good each and every week.
Always.
Who are they, Afshin?
I got to have my list. I don't ever want to forget anyone. Devin Gallagher, of course, Kevin Sampson, Bill Weisner, Larry Hickman, Rhonda Mendoza, Charles Smith. You guys know him as Chuck in the Truck.
Yeah, Chuck in the Truck.
Ken
He'll be calling
Briley.
it one for- he'll be calling for days.
Yeah. Ken Briley, Patrick McLeary, and of course, Craig Syfax. And we thank all of you, each and every one of you, for making us look good, sound good.
Thank you very much. And
Yes.
Vincent, I owe you one, man. Didn't mean to shortchange on the lacrosse segment. We'll get you back on the podcast. For my esteemed colleagues
fine.
and Vincent Charles, Afshin Banab, and Stephen Mangas, I'm Kevin Jeter. We thank you for watching and listening to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Take care and have a great week, and happy Mother's Day.